Hey Jackal, today's video is a bit different. Our December holiday started off so well, as you could see in those Disney videos, but little did we know what was about to happen. We are still so overwhelmed by what had happened, but rejoice at the story we have to tell and God's gracious hand in it all. This video is dedicated to Grammy Joy, truly a super grandma.
So our Disney trip has unfortunately come to an end, but now we are headed to the airport for the second part of our trip, which is the Caribbean cruise.
So we were now on our way to the cruise, and to get to the cruise we had to get to Puerto Rico because that's where the cruise was leaving from. So we flew from Florida to Puerto Rico airport. And we were all super excited because we've never ever done a cruise before.
We were in Puerto Rico and we were all getting a bit hungry, so we found this really nice beach bar and pub type restaurant after a bit of searching while we were waiting for Grammy and Grandpa to get there. Once they got there, then we hopped in an Uber off to the port where we were going to catch a cruise.
Look who is sleeping again.
Yeah, so at the port, obviously wanting to get onto the cruise, off to the Caribbean, or so we thought.
There was so much traffic when we got there, something wasn't right. And when we got there, we just saw this massive line, which I realized we just have to fill in at the back of the line. And it just didn't move, it hardly moved. In fact, we stood there for 4.5 to 5 hours in this line trying to get onto that boat. And then we realized there was obviously something wrong.
We are still here.
After how long? Was it
3.5.
almost 3 hours? Jackal is telling you why not to go Norwegian cruise liner. 3.5 hours.
Just to get into the building.
We're not even at the front. There, let me take this.
Yeah, you show.
Grammy's our PR lady.
Absolutely, but I'll just check on what I look like.
It is now 7:36. That means we have just hit 4 hours. How are you feeling there, Liz?
Don't even ask me.
We are singing songs in our heads already.
But they said something's wrong in the system, so I don't know what happened, but this is ridiculous.
And we are in front, and this is still the amount of people to go through.
Everyone was supposed to be on at 6 o'clock. It's now 7:30. Everyone was supposed to be on.
We were exhausted, we were tired. We at last reached the last and main hall. We got our tickets and we're going to get on board.
I couldn't wait for this moment. And we chatted together with our luggage, and suddenly I tripped. I tripped over someone's luggage and fell.
When I saw Grammy fall initially, oh no, she's hurt herself. But she got up and she said, no, I'm fine.
I remember this so vividly. Grammy was walking towards me, and I saw her trip over that bag. As she was about to fall, she grabbed tightly on my arm, but I just couldn't catch her in time. And a few weeks afterwards, I still had scratch marks on my arm.
I can remember standing with Dad at the counter, and we just gotten our room keys and we were all excited, and I turned around like ready to walk towards the boat, and I just heard Grammy go, "Ooh!" and then she was on the floor. And I was like so confused as to what had happened, and I looked up at Lisa and she looked like she was gonna laugh, so I was getting ready to laugh with her.
Grammy fell so gently. I remember chuckling a bit. I was like, Grammy, oh no, come, let's stand up, you're okay.
I can also then distinctly remember Mom going towards Grammy to try and help her up, and Grammy continuously going ooh and ah, and like she's in pain, but it doesn't look too serious at the moment. But I can just remember Dad also like in a panic, in a haste, trying to find a wheelchair and pushing through people, trying to get back to us so that he could at least help Grammy, so Grammy could sit down and they could evaluate her further.
I had just turned around because I'd just like gotten my passport back, and like we'd gotten our documents, and as I turned around I was looking at the floor because there was a lot of things in the way, chairs had been moved and stuff, and I just hear like a little bit of a scream. I don't know if it came from Lisa or Grammy or surrounding people,
But I look up and here's Grammy like just slow-mo falling to the ground onto the line of people. And I was like, okay. And we're like trying to help Grammy up and she's like, ooh, it hurts. It hurts. And she keeps touching her hips. I think it was this one. I remember Lisa commenting, oh, Grammy, you're fine, just get up. She obviously didn't think that Grammy fell too hard. She's not crying at all. She's just like, ooh, that hurts. Like, that's kind of what Grammy did. But the next thing I remember is just Grammy on a wheelchair being pushed towards the ship's entrance. And all I'm hearing Dad whisper to Mom is, it's broken. I'm going to have to get off with her. We're not going to be able to go on this cruise with you. And that's our holiday gone.
Just as we got our passport stamped and we were ready to get onto the boat, I turn around and I see Grammy almost falling in slow motion. At the time, it didn't even look that bad, so I felt bad because I was like, come on, Grammy. It clearly was that bad. Then she grabbed onto Lisa and off she went. So I ran up to them and tried to help her up, and she was just like, something sore the whole time. So that's when we realized that things were clearly a lot worse than what we thought.
All of a sudden, I heard Grammy yelping almost, and then I saw her trip over someone's bag. I think it was Lisa who tried to catch her. It was almost as if she went down slowly. And I thought to myself, sure, luckily she didn't fall very hard. It can't be too serious. But as soon as Grammy hit the ground or sat on the ground, I knew immediately that it was a fracture. All I can remember was Mom saying, I don't want to mess up your holiday. Please just go ahead. Let's go on. I can just lie the whole week. It's okay.
So as Grammy fell, didn't look like a bad fall, but I just saw her right leg externally rotated and slightly shortened, which is really the view we get when someone's broken a hip. And I looked at Tarina and I said, oh.
And Dwayne picked me up and he said, Mom, how are you? And I said, Judy, I'm fine, thank you. He said, let's put you on a chair. I said, I can't sit. I can't sit. And Tarina said to Dwayne, you know what, Dwayne? I think Mom has broken her hip. Oh, I couldn't believe it. I thought I've spoiled everybody's holiday.
Grammy just fell and it's raining outside and there's nothing to get us transported, nothing. I think Grammy even broke her hip now.
Yeah, we didn't even have the best time when it came to getting help. When we started calling for help to get Grammy on her feet, or at least in a wheelchair, Dad had to run and go source a wheelchair somewhere, and no one was there with umbrellas, so we had to scramble to get some sort of cover.
I realized that she was just biting her tongue and she was really in a lot of pain. But we decided to go on board because we knew that there was at least a doctor with x-rays on board.
So our card numbers don't work and now they're not helping us. They just say go to desk service.
While I was unpacking in the cabin, Dwayne and Tarina took her off to the ship's hospital.
We saw a nurse there that helped us beautifully. They took the x-ray and it was confirmed that there was a femur fracture.
I could clearly see the neck of the femur was fractured, and I realized Grammy cannot stay on this boat. She needs to get off. It's late at night, Puerto Rico. Who is going to get off with her? It was a difficult decision.
So I went upstairs to get Grandpa. Initially he wasn't in his cabin. I found him in the passage and he fetched some food for him and Grammy, and he was on his way back to the cabin. And then I told him that they will actually need to leave the ship, so I helped him repack.
And I don't know what I felt at that time. I was just, oh well, okay, yeah.
Yes, I had broken my hip. I was devastated. I was shocked. I think I was in trauma. And I looked around me and there I saw my 3 little grandchildren. Not little, but my 3 grandchildren. And they were crying. And I just thought, I've spoiled their holiday. Oh, Lord, why did this happen?
By this time, the ship had actually moved away from the dock and we were set to go. And the captain got so mad when he got the phone call to say we need to get back to the dock so that Grammy could get off. The craziest thing was Grammy was just cracking jokes and making us all laugh while we were crying, and it was just a mixture of emotions.
Put her on the stretcher, we'll go down. Once we are close to the ambulance, we will take the stretcher, the scoop, then we unscoop her and we go. Medical alert.
Well done, girl. Are you locking my jersey in the slit?
I went down with Dad, Grammy and Grandpa. Grammy was in the bed that they were wheeling out, and when we were at the bottom now for them to disembark, Dad and I just sat there and we were just chatting about, okay, how's things going to work, and I just said to Dad, like, you just mustn't worry, I will help and kind of step up in a sense and just make sure that the girls are all okay.
I've always been super grateful for my husband and the way he deals with situations, but in this moment when Grammy and Dad and Gramps left, I was grateful that he just stepped up and he took over and he was like, listen, we're still going to make the best of this. Super, super grateful for James.
So what happened? Tell us.
No, you told them.
So you jumped, tried to do a double twist and you fell.
I wish it was as difficult as that.
Okay, they're going to take you now, so no more jokes. Okay, here we go.
It's okay.
Put your flash on so you can see where we are.
Dad selflessly decided to remain behind with Grammy and Grandpa, and about an hour later we were standing on our balcony watching as they departed in an ambulance and a taxi off to the hospital. The three of them remained in Puerto Rico while we sailed along.
Yo, and he drove like a cowboy. And I was in such pain and I didn't know how to just maneuver my body to be at peace, but eventually I arrived at the hospital.
When we arrived at this government hospital, the emergency room, Grammy was put into a tiny cubicle. There was just, next to the bed was room for one chair, and then I was already touching the curtain for the next cubicle.
No bedding, no nurses. She needed the loo. We had to run around looking for a bedpan. There was no help for that. Minimal nursing care.
And I used the bedpan as my cupboard, and I kept my Bible in it, my cell phone, and whatever I needed.
About 1 o'clock in that morning, Dwayne and I finally left her there, and we went back to our hotel, and where we swiped a blanket, and we did return it later, but so she could at least be warm, and also discovered then for the next few days that they would not feed her. We had to go and buy food at the Burger King for her.
I lay there, they put me in this bed and put a nappy on me, but I lay there for 3 days. In my urine from morning to night. It was a warm feeling.
Hi girls, you've showed me such wonderful things. Now I'm going to show you what I'm doing. Last night a gentleman and a lady came and they made my bed and put my nappy on. And I tell you, the most exciting thing is just to read.
A male nurse came once to change me and to wash me. It was a bit embarrassing, but it's part of the journey and I just did it.
At one stage she had to go for x-rays. It took about 2.5 hours and she was treated extremely roughly. She was in agony.
We realized that this was a bad break, and I realized I had to go and speak to the casualty officers. Went to go and speak to them and said, look, any way I can get hold of the consultant orthopedic surgeon, and they pointed me to a door that I saw was open, and was actually the only time that door was open the whole time we were there. I never saw this door open again. I walked in there and the guy sort of were a little bit startled because he has a patient coming into where the consultant orthopedics, that there was two what we call registrars, the guy said, no, it's fine, once I sort of introduced myself as being a doctor. And he said, no, fine, we'll quickly have a look. And we looked together at the scans, and he said, oh no, this is going to need probably a half hip replacement. The guy said to us, but we are very busy in this government hospital. It's over Christmas. He can't guarantee this will happen anything before 10 days to up to 2 weeks.
Back to my room, but someone else had taken it. So I lay in the passage waiting for another room. But God had a special lady organized for me. Took me to another little booth, curtain to curtain, and next to me was a lady called Gloria. And because the whole hospital staff spoke Spanish, she was English. So she could talk to me, and that was good. And I knew 2 Spanish songs that I'd learned in South America in 1964. And God brought them back to me, and I could sing them. Solamente en Cristo, solamente en Él. I used to sing to everybody, and I thought, well, this is some way of getting the message across, because it was all about the Lord. And across the way from me was a young guy who is a prisoner under arrest, and his feet were in chains, and he had 2 bodyguards at the end of his bed to look after him. My heart went out to him, but I couldn't get to him. I was in such pain, I couldn't walk. So I would pray for him.
The doctors at that emergency unit were very vague about when they would be able to do the operation, and we realized that she needed to be airlifted to the United States, but to which hospital? And this is where Michael came in on the act. He had some contacts. He phoned a doctor in New York, who then gave him the name of Dr. Karim Sabeh in Miami, his private number. Michael phoned him day before Christmas, and Dr. Sabeh said, yes, certainly.
Although he accepted him, we needed the hospital to accept Grammy, and that was difficult. I finally got hold of borrowed and got one of the doctors to phone from Puerto Rico, the Miami hospital, and got me to speak to this lady directly, who told me no, she couldn't bother her colleague because it was Christmas Day, and they would only send an email and hope she'd respond before the next day, which needless to say they didn't do. But when they finally did answer and came back to me and say, no, it's okay, they've accepted her, the window of opportunity was lost, and we couldn't fly Grammy out that day, and that it would possibly only be the next day or the day thereafter.
I think we were all tearful, and so Christmas Day was very awkward. Towards the end of the afternoon, I just felt, I don't want Dwayne and Dad to just sit here. I want them to go to their hotel and just enjoy time together. And I suggested that they go. That evening, there were English Christmas carols coming over the air. I was so excited. I thought, what the heck? No one knows me. I'm going to sing at the top of my voice. Oh, come. And a prisoner on the other side joined me. And he sang with me. He wasn't a prisoner, sorry. He was a patient. And I thought, how lovely, the 2 of us singing to all the patients. But come Boxing Day, I was all right up to that point. And then I hit a low that I just prayed, and I said, God, won't you just take me home? I cannot take any more. And eventually the air ambulance came. And it was as if that's when God changed the whole picture around.
That's when it all happened. On the 26th of December, this air ambulance with 2 most wonderful nurses arrived and gave Grammy the care that she had not been getting.
They strapped me in on the stretcher, and I looked at Jose, this young prisoner, and I said, Jose, hand your life over to God and all things will turn out differently. And with that, they wheeled me out.
Taken by ambulance to the airfield, and there put in a small plane that was an air ambulance where the 2 nurses could monitor all the vital signs. I sat in the back with all our suitcases, and 3 hours later we landed in Miami.
It was at this time that my heart was relieved in a sense. Although I had to say bye-bye to Grammy and Grandpa, I realized that I had a long wait in front of me of about 2.5-3 days on my own in Puerto Rico, waiting for the ship with the family to come back to the docks, and then I would leave with them on that 30th and we'd fly back to South Africa.
Dwayne had organized that Colette should fly over and be with me, and he paid for all of that. He was amazing. He taught me what grace is all about.
And when we got to Mount Sinai Hospital, there was Colette waiting for us.
Oh, I just wanted to cry, and I just thought, how good is God? Because here I am, so traumatized, and He's looking after me.
She had arranged everything, a hotel accommodation for me, she had hired a car, and we were in her hands, and how wonderful it was.
And they took me in and did all the necessaries and took me to my ward. It was double the size of my lounge, overlooking the sea. I couldn't believe it.
We discovered she was in this huge room all by herself with a view over the ocean, private bathroom. What a difference.
There were two amazing nurses. One was from Ukraine. He was such a darling. I really loved him. I can't remember what I said. I was in such trauma. And then the doctor arrived, Dr. Karim Sabeh. And the first thing I said to him was, "You're so good looking." And the marvelous thing was, he was the pioneer of this new hip replacement. That's God. I sang again my songs to the Spanish staff, and it was just wonderful.
So finally, on the 28th of December, Grammy Joy received her new hip and was actually walking the very next day. Although it usually takes about 6 weeks to recover, she really put an amazing effort.
A day after the operation, I asked the doctor if she would be ready to fly the next day back to South Africa as was originally planned, and he just laughed.
And he said, "Oh no."
The book says she needs 6 weeks to recover, but she's a strong lady, and I think that after 10 days she can fly. Where do we stay? And a friend of Colette's had a beautiful holiday home in Florida Keys. It was only 3 hours drive from the hospital, and we spent the most idyllic 6 days in that holiday home.
What a beautiful home. Watching boats go by, seeing birds come in at night, flying. It was just so amazing. So that was my experience of a Caribbean holiday.
Careful, darling, he might jump at you. Arnold, no. Arnold, I want you back with me, love. Come, come, come.
When we went back to the doctor after a week, he said, "You know what? You can fly back. She's strong enough." And I was on a walker at this stage because in Florida Keys, I was walking every day. We asked, "Could we pray for you?" And he said, "Yes, with pleasure." So we all held hands, and Arnold prayed so beautifully. Prayed for him, prayed for his work. Thank God for the operation and everything that took place. And when he said Amen, Karim said, "While you were praying, I got goose flesh going down my back." And I believe that God is at work in the life of that doctor. Praise His name. The wonderful thing was that the medical aid paid for everything, including our business class as we flew home. Oh, that was amazing.
So she's finally home.
After all this, the Norwegian cruise liners actually refused to give us any refunds, which was quite amazing. So I wrote a little bit of a stern lawyer's letter, whereupon they quickly returned and said, no, that's fine, they'll give us credit for 2 people for a trip anywhere else in the world as long as it was within 12 months. Fortunately, my brother was able to take that up with his son.
Now it was the day after Grammy fell, and as you can imagine, we're not in the greatest of moods. I remember crying a lot that day and trying to get everyone in the mood. We were super relaxed. We basically just explored the ship, and we swam, lay in the sun, and just took it easy.
From this experience, I learned that you truly don't know how much you love someone until you lose them or you can't be with them. It was truly difficult for us to try and enjoy the rest of the holiday knowing what had happened, but we tried our best and we saw a lot of rainbows, which was really nice, remembering God's promise in it all and God's hand in it all, and we couldn't be more thankful for the way it turned out.
It was a holiday full of mixed emotions: excitement, adventure, sadness, loneliness, since Dad was not there with us for Christmas. But in the end, it was eye-opener, just to see how life can throw battles at you, but that Christ is always in control and that you can come out on the other end stronger.
What I learned from this whole experience is that God is faithful. If you look at my gran now, you would never say that 6 months ago she was unable to walk. So yeah, God is really, really faithful. But another thing that I learned is that you don't take people like over 65 or 70 on an overseas holiday.
So overall, it was a great experience. We had a really good holiday, and I, for the most part, I wouldn't change it. But obviously the experience with Grammy was unfortunate. But we are grateful to the Lord for getting her through this, and her spirits are high as ever, and she's back to her fun, bubbly self. So we're just thankful that it wasn't as bad as what it could have been, and that now she's back to normal. So we're really grateful for that.
I think what I've learned from this trip is that things happen very quickly. We're not always in control of what happens, but we do know that the Lord is in control. He cares for us, even if we don't think it, because Grammy got her hip replaced at the best hospital. The Lord really sustained us when we were alone on the ship, and I think we've learned to rely on God more through the whole process. We really thank the Lord that everything turned out so well, and you won't believe it, but she's walking fast again and doing her thing.
Although this was a very trying time for me, God was very gracious, and He answered prayer after prayer, and in miraculous ways, to allow everything to fall into place so Grammy could get this hip with one of the best surgeons for this procedure somewhere else around the world. So to God be all the glory.
The question often arose in our minds, why, Lord? But we experienced God's amazing love, amazing care, superb operation, the top doctor. We flew back home business class, paid for by Discovery, and we just stand amazed at the love of our Father.
Looking back, my first thought was, I've spoiled everybody's holiday. But now I realize God was in control. He had everything worked out and organized for me, and He worked in an incredible way as I see how His hand was upon me all the way. And I just thank Him from the bottom of my heart. To God be all the glory.
But that wasn't the end. Stay tuned for what truly was a miracle. We still continue to record the rest of our holiday that you'll see in the next few videos. And what is funny is that every time you see us in our sunglasses, we are probably crying or hiding our tears.
We hope you guys enjoyed the video. Jackal out.